4 million families in America who have mixed immigration status. So I'm talking about parents who might be here illegally, but the kids are here legally. Your borders are.
You're talking about separation.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are two aspects to this. Your border czar, Tom Homan, said they can be deported together.
Correct.
Is that the plan?
Well, that way you keep well, I don't want to be breaking up families, so the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together, and you have to send them all back.
Even kids who are here legally?
Well, what you going to do if they want to stay with the father? Look, we have to have rules and regulations. You can always find something out like, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. I'll tell you what's going to be horrible. When we take a wonderful young woman who's with a criminal, and they show the woman, and she could stay by the law, but they show the woman being taken out, or they want her out, and your cameras are focused on her as she's crying, as she's being taken out of our country, and then the public turns against us. But we have to do our job, and you have to have a series.
I agree. There's a job that has to be done, and there's a lot of people who committed a crime. Get them out. And I agree with getting rid of birthright citizenship. Just because you were born on American soil doesn't make you an American. I think that creates a major issue here in America. Now, obviously, he's going to have some issues trying to do that. I understand that. But I don't agree with that. Like, just because, so if you come into America and you're pregnant and you have a baby here, like, all of a sudden, now we're just stuck with it? I just don't think that makes sense. Call me a bad person, whatever. I just don't think it makes sense. We got to talk about Scott Jennings and CNN because, of course, they are freaking out about what Trump was just saying in that interview with Kristen Welker, where he talked about some of those things as well as deporting families together. Even if, a child is here legally, technically, right? Hey, if you want to stay with your family, well, we could deport you all together. You don't have to just stay here by yourself. I mean, you can if you want to. You're here legally, so we're not going to kick you out. But your parents, if they here illegally, they got to go. So if you want to stay with them, you better go with them. I agree with that. I agree with it. But, of course, the people on CNN, not so much. With that being said, let's dive in.
I don't think that's true.
Well,
I think
no. I'm sorry. When you talk about birthright and citizenship, that's kind of what people are thinking all day.
His priorities were clear. People with deportation orders, violent criminals, that's where they're going to start. And that is really popular.
That's where they should end. I totally agree with that.
There's a lot of fear-mongering going on about
I just think that we need to, I do think we need to look at not only what he's saying, but what he did. Like, there's a track record. Actions speak louder than words. They went after everyone in the last administration. So I just don't think we need to fall for that
As
trap.
they should.
And on the point about, DACA recipients, my brother is a DACA recipient. I was, formerly undocumented, part of the Dreamer movement that was able to win DACA under the Trump administration. And when we engage in very credible bipartisan efforts to pass legislation, what did Trump do? He killed every single bipartisan deal. And the last one, let's remember, he killed it by using language I will not use here to refer to black and brown immigrants when we were talking about immigration.
When these folks keep bringing up the fact that, Trump killed the bill, it just goes to show that Trump is a true leader. People actually follow Trump. Like, I don't think they understand what they're actually saying. If Trump is that powerful and he wasn't even in office, he was a criminal, a felon, right, out on bond, and that's the guy that everybody's taking marching orders from, well, then maybe he should be back in office because our current leadership is absolutely garbage and nobody listens to them. They listen to Trump still, and he's not even the president. Because that's what they always, well, Trump killed a bipartisan border bill. Goodness gracious. Wow.
What we do hear are Democrats talking about, we need to be more moderate, they will say, right? We need to talk in different ways about immigration. We need to be tougher on immigration. That kind of we need to language I'm hearing from Democrats a lot. Where does that leave an activist like yourself in the middle of this discussion?
For me, I think that we need to have a real conversation about the immigration system and the laws that we need. And quite frankly, I'm not going to be here to also defend where Democrats have gone wrong on this issue. Our movement is actually quite independent, and we have been on opposite side with Democrats as well. But the thing here is that this is about a conversation, to your point about birthright citizenship, about who gets to be an American and the soul of this country. And when we're talking about taking away birthright citizenship, when we're talking about not caring about deporting children who are U.S. citizens, separating them from their parents, I think we're talking about who gets to have full protection under the Constitution.
We're talking about getting rid of criminals who broke the law. We have laws in this country. What's the point of having laws if you don't follow them? What's the point of, having a law that, makes it illegal for these folks to be coming in the way that they're coming in, and we don't hold them accountable just because they have a child? Like, no. Like, what? No. Once again, if that child wants to stay with their family, they can go with their family. Simple. If the child wants to stay here, stay here. It ain't complicated.
And I think that goes to the origin of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was created for Black people who had been enslaved, who are now free. It was one of the Reconstruction Amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th. And the 14th declared birthright citizenship specifically for Black people. So this isn't just a Latino issue. This is an issue about who you go after when you're finished with the Latinos. Who do you go after after you do that? This is something that Black people, this is something that Black people should be very concerned about.
Okay, Black people weren't running here. Okay, they were taken here. There is a big difference between being pulled out of your continent into this continent and you deserve rights versus people who are coming into this country without obeying by the laws.
Why was the 14th Amendment created?
To help the people who were brought here against their will.
Right.
Okay?
And who are those people?
These are the Black people.
Okay.
These are people who are coming here.
That's why I'm making the point
they're
that I'm
coming here
making.
voluntarily against the law. Christina, what you said about the system being broken,
lawful to enslave
nobody
Black
could
people?
disagree with you.
Yeah, no, it's
No
not.
one could disagree.
come
We
on.
need to have a real. Look, all of us here benefit from immigrant labor.
I was just
If
going to
you
say,
just like
this
came, took the train, you ordered delivery from a
100%.
restaurant, or you had a nice meal at a restaurant, we all here depend on immigrant labor. And what he's talking about is going after families, going after workers, and going after entire communities that will destroy not only families.
So basically, don't deport anybody because those criminals have families too, right? Even though they're technically all criminals because they broke the law by coming into this country, so we can label them all as criminals, but we'll just say the violent folks, right? They have families too. So what if they have little children? Are we just not supposed to deport them even though they're violent? Because that's our whole argument is, well, they got kids, it's a family. We can't separate the families. What if they're violent criminals? None of this stuff makes sense. None of it.
I think that there's a real need, though, to try and maybe this is where Democrats should be adding value and maybe aren't adding enough value, to really not just look at individuals, but to look at what this country needs and where people are actually getting jobs and working. Because our country does depend on immigrant labor in all sorts of industries. And that's something where, to be honest, Donald Trump cares about growth, economic growth, as do Democrats and immigrant activists. And so, when Christina says there needs to be a thoughtful conversation about this, the rhetoric needs to go away. You need a thoughtful conversation.
You can't say we need immigrant labor and then have people here sustaining major parts of our economy and they say, oh, by the way, we don't want you, we're going to deport you. So we really need to have
we obviously are a nation
a conversation.
And we do use immigrant labor in this country, and it's very important. But you can't have a country without laws. And the political reality is that the American people believe the border is not secure. They believe the immigration system is a mess. They believe the politicians in Washington have failed. And they believe this has gone on and on and on. And a major reason he won the election is to clean it up. And part of cleaning it up is saying, if you came here illegally and you don't obey our laws, we're not giving you special privileges anymore. That's the political bottom line.
But you know what? He didn't clean it up last time.
Right.
Yeah, because of the rhinos. But Scott Jennings laid it out perfectly. The American people, by and large, want these folks deported. Trump ran on it, and he won. And he didn't. It wasn't even like close. Like, he won in a landslide. He won every single swing state. Plus, he won the popular vote. So it wasn't like, maybe. You know, like, no, he won it. And this was one of the major things that he ran on, was getting the illegals out of here and closing up the border. Simple. Very, very simple.
Right.
It's not that easy.
He did a better job than Joe Biden.
Where's the wall?
Why did Joe Biden throw out all of his executive orders on day one that led to this
though,
crisis?
a better job traumatizing over 5,000 children, separating
How many
children
children has this administration lost track of? Do you know? It's tens of thousands.
Yeah, the Trump
tens of
administration made
thousands.
it impossible to have any way to be able to
Where have you been the
reunite.
last 4 years, honestly? I mean, the Biden administration
nobody's done a good job with
has
this,
done
Scott, but,
nothing
you know.
but make this worse. The political reaction to this in November was to go back to Trump because they believed he had it under control and could get it under control.
Jennings,
I
you
think it's
hear in that
scapegoating
ending birthright citizenship,
This has been
in that vote, I mean.
This has been a long-standing argument of some on the right who are immigration hardliners. I assume it'll be litigated. To me, the most critical issues are border security, deport the criminals, people with deportation orders. That's where you got to start.
Okay.
And the DACA thing,
Probably-
which he said in the interview, is
You're
is a
limited
vital
there, you'd
issue.
probably be all right.
Listen, deport them all. Every single one of them. Not just the violent criminals. Every single one of them. Every single one. All of the people that are here illegally. I don't care if they're working in an important job or not. If you are here illegally. Oh, goodness gracious. My light went out. If you are here illegally, you got to go. Simple. Simple. If your child is here legally, but you're here illegally, but your child wants to stay with you, well, then we'll deport you all together. We won't separate the family, okay? So, you got two choices. Either the kid can stay here by themselves, or they can be deported with their mother and father. See ya. Simple. Simple. Easy peasy. Get them all out and end birthright citizenship. I like the sound of that personally, but who am I? Maybe I'm just a terrible guy. Probably the case, right? Y'all let me know in the comment section if you agree, disagree, why not. Talk to me. And yeah, they are correct. Trump is going to have a major problem getting rid of all of these folks because there's so many, right? But there are ways with which he can go about this. Making it extremely, extremely tough for anybody who's here illegally to get work, to get any type of assistance of any sort, making it literally impossible. You know, you start stacking up stuff like that, as well as obviously deporting these folks, obviously securing the border the way that it should be. And eventually these folks will just start deporting themselves. As a matter of fact, I believe I saw a story out of New York, I believe it was, where people were just up and leaving themselves. They were just getting up out of here. They were like, well, Trump won. Yeah, I'm leaving. I'm gone. I even dropped a YouTube short where a guy who was living in New York City was talking about how the streets are already being cleaned up because people, illegals aren't just sitting on the streets anymore. So, I mean, if they're already self-deporting, just imagine once Trump gets in and he starts stacking up all of these things on top of each other that just make it virtually impossible for them to live here while being illegal. I mean, there's a problem right there. I mean, there's the problem solved right there. They'll deport themselves. You don't have to go out and search constantly. Or what you could do also on top of that, and I believe it's in Missouri or something. I think it's a red state where they were talking about paying people for tips on where illegals are. Paying people. I forgot the amount, but if they offer an incentive to folks, regular Americans, to give out information on where some illegals are, that could work as well. Everybody loves a little bit of cash. Hey, I might be snitching myself. Offer me 10,000. I'm snitching. Hey, yeah, I saw some illegals at 7214. right down the block, right there at that brick house right there. Yep. I saw them go in. They in there right now. Where my 10,000, right? Hey, I'm joining in on it. So that's also an easy way to get things done. So yeah, there's plenty of ways to do it, and I do believe that Trump will get it done in his 4 years. But what do you think? Let me know. Peace and love. I'm out.